Una dey see wetin I dey see. Guys, wanna share this video now. Benin this one for happen. Now the squad when they terrorize Benin now, there be 10 in number. If you count these people, now be like 8 or 9. Be like one day outside. Just count them. As they run out, they count them. You see now 10. Now they terrorize everywhere now. Every time don't reach him. As Tinubu start to the share meter, say may they give free meter to everybody. May they give it. He don't reach when we say go see they say Mona share one pumpy give everybody for each house. Now that level now we they go so. If you see I saw this people they disturb everywhere. Now that level when we say everybody need to get pump action for house. Now that level now we dey so. Now the level we dey. Guys, wanna share this video. These people they need to Senator Modo need to know what is happening in his state. Now what did they happen for those state be this now? Now what did they happen be this now, guys?
Edge, a nation facing a security emergency. Insecurity in Nigeria has reached a level that many citizens describe as one of the most alarming periods in the country's modern history. Across multiple regions, violence has become disturbingly common, from kidnappings on highways to attacks on villages, from banditry in forests to insurgency in remote areas. Millions of Nigerians now live with a persistent sense of fear. For ordinary citizens, the simple act of traveling, farming, attending school, or even sleeping peacefully at night can feel like a risk. Increasingly, it seems that the only people who enjoy a consistent sense of safety are political elites surrounded by security details and individuals who possess weapons to defend themselves. The widening gap between the safety of those in power and the vulnerability of the general population has fueled frustration and despair among citizens. Many observers now argue that the country should be operating in full national security emergency mode. If urgent and decisive action is not taken, the consequences could be severe, not just for the safety of individuals, but for the stability and unity of the nation itself. A nation under siege. Nigeria's security crisis is complex and multi-layered. In the northeast, the insurgency led by Boko Haram and related factions has persisted for more than a decade, leaving tens of thousands dead and millions displaced. In the northwest, heavily armed bandit groups carry out raids on villages, steal livestock, and kidnap civilians for ransom. Entire communities have been forced to abandon their homes. In the Middle Belt, violent attacks and retaliatory clashes have devastated farming communities, leading to large-scale displacement and food insecurity. Meanwhile, kidnappings have spread across many parts of the country, including highways that were once considered relatively safe. School children, travelers, and even religious leaders have become targets. This widespread insecurity has created the impression that violence can occur almost anywhere and at any time. For a nation of more than 200 million people, this level of uncertainty represents a profound threat to stability. The growing sense of fear. Security is the foundation of any functioning society. Without it, economic activity slows, social trust weakens, and public confidence in institutions erodes. Today, many Nigerians are increasingly skeptical about whether the state can protect them. Farmers hesitate to cultivate their land because of fear of attacks. Parents worry about sending their children to school. Travelers often avoid road journeys after sunset. In some areas, communities have resorted to forming local vigilante groups for protection, filling the vacuum left by overwhelmed security forces. While these groups sometimes provide immediate defense, they also reflect a troubling reality. Citizens no longer feel confident that official structures alone can guarantee their safety. A security system under strain. Nigeria's armed forces and police face enormous challenges in trying to manage multiple security crises simultaneously. The military must address insurgency in the northeast, banditry in the northwest, communal violence in the Middle Belt, and organized crime in urban centers. This enormous burden has stretched resources thin. Security personnel often operate under difficult conditions, confronting well-armed groups across vast and sometimes inaccessible terrain. At the same time, critics argue that deeper structural issues such as inadequate funding allocation, poor coordination among agencies, and corruption have undermined the effectiveness of security efforts. Without significant reforms, these problems may continue to hinder progress. Political leadership and public expectations. In times of crisis, citizens expect strong leadership. They want to see urgency, transparency, and empathy from those in power. However, public frustration has grown as many Nigerians perceive a gap between official statements and the reality on the ground. When attacks occur repeatedly without visible consequences for perpetrators, people begin to question whether enough is being done. When communities cry out for protection and feel unheard, anger grows. When political leaders appear distant from the suffering of citizens, the sense of disconnection deepens. Leadership during a security crisis requires not only policy decisions, but also visible commitment to the safety and well-being of the population. Economic consequences of insecurity. Beyond the human toll, insecurity has serious economic consequences. Agriculture, one of Nigeria's most important sectors, has been heavily disrupted. Farmers in conflict-prone areas often abandon their fields, reducing food production and contributing to rising food prices. Businesses hesitate to invest in regions where safety cannot be guaranteed. Tourism remains limited due to safety concerns. Meanwhile, many skilled Nigerians choose to leave the country in search of safer and more stable environments abroad, contributing to a growing brain drain. The combined effect of these trends slows national development and deepens economic hardship. The risk of national fragmentation. Perhaps the most dangerous consequence of prolonged insecurity is the gradual erosion of national unity. Nigeria is a diverse country, home to hundreds of ethnic and cultural groups. Maintaining unity in such a diverse nation requires trust that the state will treat all citizens fairly and protect them equally. When communities feel abandoned or unprotected, that trust can begin to collapse. In some regions, citizens increasingly speak about self-defense, regional autonomy, or even separation. Such sentiments may begin as expressions of frustration, but over time they can evolve into powerful political movements. History shows that when insecurity persists and confidence in national institutions weakens, the risk of fragmentation grows. While Nigeria has survived serious crises in the past, including the devastating Nigerian Civil War, the lessons of history remain relevant. Ignoring warning signs can allow small crises to grow into national disasters. The urgency of a national security emergency. Given the scale and persistence of the current crisis, many analysts argue that Nigeria should adopt a more aggressive and coordinated national security strategy. Such an approach could include improved intelligence coordination between security agencies, better equipment and training for security forces, stronger community-based security partnerships, addressing economic and social conditions that fuel violence, and ensuring accountability and transparency in security operations. A national emergency approach would signal to citizens that their government recognizes the severity of the situation and is fully committed to restoring peace. A nation at a critical moment. Nigeria stands at a critical moment in its history. The country still possesses enormous potential. Its population is young and dynamic, its natural resources are vast, and its cultural influence across Africa and the world remains strong. But potential alone cannot guarantee stability. Without security, development becomes nearly impossible. Without safety, prosperity cannot flourish. And without trust between citizens and institutions, the foundation of national unity begins to crack. A warning for the future. The growing insecurity in Nigeria is more than a series of isolated incidents. It is a warning signal. It warns of the dangers of neglecting governance reforms. It warns of the consequences of allowing violence to spread unchecked. And it warns that if decisive action is not taken, the long-term stability of the country could be at risk. No nation, regardless of size or resources, can survive indefinitely if its citizens live in constant fear. Conclusion: the time for action. Nigeria's current security challenges are serious, but they are not impossible to overcome. History shows that nations can recover from deep crises when leaders act decisively and citizens unite around a shared vision of peace and stability. What Nigeria needs now is urgency, accountability, and leadership that prioritizes the protection of human life above all else. The safety of millions of Nigerians cannot remain an afterthought. It must become the highest national priority. Because when insecurity reaches the point where ordinary people feel unprotected and unheard, the future of the nation itself hangs in balance. And the greatest tragedy would be to ignore the warning signs until it is too late. Stay tuned.